Hey, welcome to this, the most exciting thing happening in the basement of Bloomberg for the next 20 minutes. Anyway, actually, this is the first time, this is the first time that a summit has ever been held in a basement. Except there was last year. That was it. So, yes, I'm the after lunch thing. I'm to wake you up. There are some people still asleep, I think. If you are, they'll wake up and think, what the hell is Paddy Ashdown doing on stage? I did say to Michael, who have you got? I said, you've got Miliband, have you got Cameron, have you got Boris? He said, no, that's why you're here. So basically, we're going to talk through some of the permutations, really, of the election. You've all been following the election. By the way, what are the other, if this is the third most trending subject, I want to know what the other two are. So hashtag Miliband is going to be one, and hashtag 2 centimeters dilated is another one. I think that's going to be the news coming in. Oh, it's the royal baby stuff. There's a giant screen in Hyde Park. They're all watching, how's it all going? But yes, so the election, does seem to be going on for a very, very long time. I don't know if you've been following. And interestingly, of course, for most of it, the polls haven't really changed that much. I think it's about 34% Tories, 36% Labour, 20% thinking it'll be a girl. I don't think they quite understood the question at all. But, the poll's hardly changing, except, there's the odd rogue poll. And, in a way, I think, the only good poll is a rogue poll. I know that Nigel Farage thinks the only good poll is a dead poll, but... No, okay, absolutely clear. That's the thing. They did actually ask him. They said, what do you think of the polls? He said, I think they should go home and stay there. So there we go. So anyway, I'm going to talk a little bit about the election, some of the permutations, go through that, so some of the voices, some of the characters. Then we'll have some supper. And is anyone doing anything before Saturday? Because anyway, we could fill it. But so here we are, back at election time, and you think back 5 years, and it was extraordinary, was it? That election was strange enough, because we didn't really understand what was on offer. We didn't really know what we wanted, and we weren't happy with what we ended up with. It was like the political equivalent of Nando's, wasn't it? So we got this sort of strange thing, and we ended up with a government, Cameron and Clegg, without a mandate, essentially, because Cameron hasn't got a mandate, Clegg hasn't got a mandate. The only one with a mandate was William Hague, who had 2 mandates. And absolutely nothing happened on either of them. He was my special advisor. It was his job to help me with my briefs in the morning and to debrief me at the end of the day. And he was very good. He had a very firm grasp of my essentials. Anyway, and he's going. Of course, we're losing William Hague at this election. Sadly, he's going away, which is sad because he was a very good foreign secretary, because as you know, we have a prime minister who thinks that Somalia is a wine waiter, and we're going to lose it. We need these characters. We need these characters. Sometimes the public have trouble in recognizing who they are. They did a little survey the other day, and they said, well, if the politicians were animals, who are they? They said, well, Cameron is a fox. They said, well, Farage they thought was a fox, was a weasel or a peacock. And they decided that Ed Miliband was one of those animals that if you went to the zoo and it wasn't there, you weren't that bothered. But I think that's changed. I really do. I think that's changed in the last couple. But I just want to say, look, it's not about me. It's about the people of this country, and I really do. I mean that. But I'll just say he was in the Scottish referendum campaign, but he was about as much use as a dolphin playing the cymbals. But he's like, people of Scotland, you are our brothers, and you know how we treat our brothers. We stab them. We establish a background of communication, and I just think that's important. But let me just say, look, I feel your pain as a leader. As a child, I swallowed a kazoo. He was going to be here, but he forgot, which is funny because usually he gets halfway through the speech before he actually forgets what he's going to say. But no, he is busy and he's around the country. But we are now into they're all making their pitches now, or they're making the pitches like Labour saying they'll take £3,000 off tuition fees. The Lib Dems are saying they do something about education. David Cameron's offering unlimited texts. Free calls a week, and I think it's important. I think what we want to say, I think we've turned the country around. I think we have turned the country around. I mean, when you think back, accident and emergencies going into reverse, we've doubled the number of schools going into special needs, and we've added 500 billion to the debt. Now, I think that's important. And people banging on saying, are you going to make the rich richer? Are you going to make the poor poorer? Well, we've managed to do both. I think that's important, and I think now we've got a choice. Are you real? Are we going to tax rich people in their mansions, or are we going to tax poor people who happen to have a spare room? And I think that's a no-brainer. I think we should be on the side of the vulnerable. I mean, you look at the Earl of Cardigan. Poor chap, £10 million house, he could lose that through no fault of his own. I think we should be absolutely foursquare behind people like that, people who need our help, and not these people who happen to have a spare room that they only use when their daughter comes out of dialysis. So I think that's important, and I think I should say. But I know here we are, I think in the city, and I think we should thank the bankers and the people who work in the city, all the hard work they do. I mean, something like $39 billion in the last few years, either side of the Atlantic, you've been bringing in fines. And that is these people who are working so hard, manipulating LIBOR, rigging interest rates, mis-selling pensions and swaps, and all those things, so that we can have the fines that can actually make up the gap in our economy. I think that's, and also our black economy. I think a big round for our black economy, now the most successful black economy in Europe. We recently got a bill for 1.7 billion from the European Union. I know that's a lot of money. The last time I saw a check for 1.7 billion, it fell out of a card on my 18th birthday. But you think of our drug dealers and our prostitutes who are working night in, night out, giving people what they want at a price that they can afford. And I think that's important, and I just think we should register all that. It's very, very important. Did you enjoy the debates? That was rather remarkable, wasn't it? Because I was a veteran of the campaign last year, the referendum, where it was democratic. It was just wall-to-wall democracy last year in Scotland. We had the European elections. We ended up with Scotland's first UKIP, a member of the European Parliament, which is just bizarre. That's the sign of the apocalypse, isn't it? That's like ravens leaving the Tower of London, or apes leaving Gibraltar, when you've got or Tony Blair being Middle East peace envoy. That's the other one. All right. To be fair, it's never been more peaceful. But Libya, Syria, it's sorted completely. You can hear a pin drop, followed by the grenade, obviously. So we had that, the European elections. We had the referendum, of course, and all we needed at the end of the year was Louis Walsh going, Nicola, you absolutely nailed it. You made the campaign your own. You're absolutely fine. You're like a little Susie Quattro. You absolutely are. Were any of you in Scotland for that? Did you? I love the slogans that was going through. Yes, yes. Scotland was the essay. That sounded like Alex Salmon having an orgasm, and his wife would say, "Better together," or possibly just no thanks. So now we've had these debates, and of course with all these different parties, I mean, it was like Take Me Out at one stage, wasn't it? So they had 7 of them say, "Don't forget, voters, no likey, no lighty." Either that or some bizarre version of I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. So, so I did it. And Nicola Sturgeon and Natalie Bennett have got to get 3 stars, or the rest of the campmates are going to have to eat Ed Miliband. I think I prefer the kangaroo anus. I knew you were going to say that. So we have got this rather strange new kind of politics. And people say there's no difference between the parties. There is quite a bit of difference between the parties now, where they want to go back to. The Tories want to take us back to the 1930s. Labour want to take us back to 1945. And for UKIP, of course, 1065. Year before, William the Conqueror, dare I say it, came over, opened door immigration, and as a result of William the Conqueror coming over here, 1,000 years on, we're all speaking French. Except for my wife, of course, she's German. Now, let's make absolutely clear, he bounces up and down on his feet like that. There we go. I'm you, but after a few drinks. He is... There is a difference, and people say, of course, that Conservatives, they look after the bosses, Labour look after the workers, Lib Dems look after the children, or the catering, that was it, look after the catering. I did do a show the other day with Nick Clegg. He said, hi Rory, can you do me yet? I said, no, can you? Just hold that thought. There are differences, as I say, because Labour, the Tories want to end the deficit sooner. Labour want to end the deficit later, and the Lib Dems want to end it sooner or later. So, there are these sort of distinctions and differences, but I know we are also starting to see a little bit more of our politicians. We've seen them around on the stump because for a lot of them, I mean, we're in this technicolor world of people like Phil Hammond. I mean, I don't think Phil Hammond's wife knows who Phil Hammond is. I think he just arrives at home, hi, darling, I'm home. Who the fuck are you? But I mean, and some of the other members of the Ed Davey, Patrick McLaughlin. I'm not sure Cameron knows who half of the cabinet are. I think we're going to talk about a couple of you. I'm terribly sorry, I've forgotten your name. Well, it's Theresa May, isn't it? I'm so sorry. It was a moustache put me off. Is it? Gosh, is it still November? No, never mind. But I think it's important that we actually go into all these areas. We do need politicians that we recognise. There is, of course, Boris. How many are you London? Any London people here? Yes. Do you like a joke? Well, now you've got one. Goodness me. Yes. I mean, God help us. Next time if there's a bomb in London. I mean, look what they've done. These bashy bazook, these fuzzy wuzzies. I mean, look what they've done to look at my hair. Look at my hair. That's one of these extraordinary things. So, do you feel engaged? Do you feel engaged in the election? Do you think have you changed your opinion? Any of you? Who are the big democracy fans? All of you, or you just want it all to be over? So, who thinks the Tories are going to win? And who thinks Labour are going to win? Who do you think is going to like nobody? Well, this is the interesting thing, isn't it? Because the bookies, for the first time, they say, okay, Tories are going to get more seats, but Labour will form the government. And you realise the difference is it's the maths and working all that out, and that's quite it's quite complicated to work that out and getting a coalition. And they're thinking, how long is it going to go on for? But it doesn't really matter. Belgium didn't have a government for 15 months, and but during that period they had the highest growth rate in Europe. So, governments, they're not everything. I think that's important. I think do we need a government? I don't, not necessarily. And that's something I'll be thinking of in my retirement in about 6 months' time. But that's the thing we're going to look. Any Miliband fans here? Any Miliband? Because I've been quietly impressed by him over the last couple of weeks because the stillness, on a focus, on an intensity. And you look, and I think, is that such a bad thing? It reminds a little bit of Obama. He has that concentration, focus, and intensity. But is it enough? I don't know. Have any of you been swayed by Miliband in this campaign? No. See, it's funny, people do say, oh, he's so ugly. He's ugly. And I find most of all, when you talk to people like that, you drill down, it's basically because he might cost that person a little bit of money. And that's what it's all. But the city aren't particularly frightened about it, are they? I mean, if you think that Miliband is going to win, you think the city, ooh, but they're not. They're kind of, everyone's quite relaxed. It's almost as if the election's happening in another country. Do you feel that now? You turn on the television and there's David Cameron in a classroom somewhere. There's Nick Clegg in a factory somewhere. There's Ed Miliband, on a boat somewhere. And you think, oh, the election is still going on in Germany or in France or whatever. But anyway, we've got another week to go. But it's interesting. I mean, we need basically to get a bit of excitement. I mean, I don't know whether we need somebody. Eric Pickles has to punch somebody. I think we need one of these magic moments. Last time, do you remember John Prescott last time? Because there was a politician that we all recognised and related to. I mean, for 10 years we had a deputy prime minister who looked like a National Express coach driver. Either that or Les Dawson. I was talking to Claire Short the other day. Claire Short never goes abroad. They won't let much meat out the country without a permit. I went to see the doctor the other day. I said, Doctor, I've got a steering wheel stuck on the end of my knob and it's driving me nuts. I missed that, because it'd be like David Blunkett. There was another one. I mean, you knew where you were with David Blunkett, didn't you? I mean, he didn't know where he was, obviously. I mean, but he had that. But he did have a bit of a mean streak. You could tell. You just look at him. He could be quite nasty sometimes. He's like, don't pat the dog. He'll have your fucking head off. But not just that. Michael Howard, of course. Remember, hello, I'm Michael Howard. It's all right. I'm not going to hurt you. But we are in the crucial stages now. Cameron says, if you go to bed with Farage, you'll wake up with Miliband. I mean, it's bad enough going to Miliband and waking up with Miliband. If you go to bed with Nigel Farage, you're lucky if you wake up at all, because you'll spill his drink, set fire to the bed, and that'll be it. Sorry, never happened before. The light is flashing away, and I did say rather rashly to Michael I would take a couple of questions, because we have about 3 or 4 minutes before all the serious business starts. So if any of you have any questions, I'll tell you a quick joke while you're thinking about it. What do you get if you cross austerity and quantitative easing? You get a food bank that's too big to fail. Thank you very much indeed. Any questions?
And Rory,
What's for lunch,
the
you say?
voice of your choice.
Well, no, don't be sort of, yes, you see, you're flummoxed. You're asleep. You're saving your questions for Liz Truss or Lord Balamory. Oh, you're there. There's a man from University College London. I was at King's, so the rivalry is going to get played out, to watch this.
I was going to skip over that, but I've already tweeted it, so I'll probably have to skip it. In the event that none of the leaders of the main parties at the moment actually becomes Prime Minister, who would you like to see taking the job in order that you could ridicule them with the most effectiveness?
You'd like me to say Russell Brand, wouldn't you, in a strange kind of way? He sounds a little bit like Michael Spencer, but with a dictionary, you know what I mean? Anyway, so... in the event, I mean, it is interesting because if Labour did go into, they've clearly rolled a coalition out with SNP, and SNP actually, it's interesting because Labour will obviously, if they get the chance, they'll write a Queen's speech, and then they'll turn to SNP and say, well, are you really going to vote that down? But if there was a coalition, that would be extraordinary because if the SNP gets something like 40, 45 seats, they would be due 3 or 4 cabinet seats. So Salmon presumably would be first in the queue, wouldn't he? And that would be good. So Alec, which portfolio would you like?
I'll have defence. No, foreign affairs. You can have an embassy in Scotland anytime you like. So who would I like to see? I don't know. I mean, I think I'm coming to terms with most of them. But the strange thing is that half of them won't be here in a few couple of years' time. I mean, because Cameron, this election is lose-lose. He either loses outright or he doesn't get enough of a majority. And if he doesn't get enough of a majority, the Tories are going to say, well, you've had 2 chances. You didn't beat Gordon Brown. You didn't beat Miliband. Off you go. In which case we'll get Boris or whoever stands, so that'll change. So it's lose-lose for him. It's win-win for Nicola Sturgeon, because if the Tories get into power, then they'll be able to say, well, Tory government, maybe 1 Tory MP in Scotland, no legitimacy, we should have that referendum and we'll put it in our manifesto next year. And if Labour win, of course, they'll have more influence. Nick Clegg, of course, it's win-win, because if the Labour Party win and they need him, get an overwhelming minority, put it that way, they all need him. Similarly, the Tories will. And Miliband, it's interesting, because either he will lose or he will have to negotiate hard with the SNP. But I think he's good at calling people's bluff, I think, and he's done that with non-doms and the city. And I think that's a quality that he's proved during the election. So I don't know, all of the above, none of the above. Does that answer your question? No. Hello.
Carol Stone, well
done. It is,
done.
Of course, Carol, absolutely.
What is it that, or who has been the person you've most enjoyed impersonating? And if so, for what reason? Is it the look? Is it the speech? Is it the gait? Or is it what they say? And does it matter if you like them or don't like them?
I would say it's Bill Clinton because of the sex. He is but no, he is great fun to do, and he had a license to be a bit naughty when you're doing him. He's a big Barack Obama fan. He said, because one of the first things that Obama did, he made my wife Secretary of State, and she did not come home for 4 years. I had the best 4 years of my entire life right there. So there we go. Can I tell you the most interesting fact I learned this week, and then I'll go. Talk about, because there is this extraordinary thing about, because we got a choice. This is the thing. This election I think there is about a choice in this election. And a couple of years ago, a couple of decades ago, on the London to Brighton line, British Rail, they stopped serving kippers. They used to serve kippers for breakfast, and they stopped it. And so, of course, a big campaign in that very English way. They got a big campaign going, and Lord Olivier was put in charge. And they relented. British Rail gave way, and the first morning afterwards, on the train, there's Lord Olivier, and the steward comes up and says, Lord Olivier, so I expect you wanted the kippers? He said, no, I'll have the bacon and eggs. And he said, I thought you wanted the kippers. He said, no. He said, what I wanted was the choice. And that is what we seem to have in this election. The only trouble is that the electorate seem to want kippers and bacon and egg and eggs Benedict and a continental and a croissant and muesli, and we're going to have to sort it out afterwards. But anyway, that's for later. This is now, and I'm out of time. Thank you very much. Thank you.